Continuing Jessie L. Weston's From Ritual to Romance. Chapter 7, The Sword Dance. The subject we are now about to consider is one which of late years has attracted considerable attention and much acute criticism has been expended on the question of its origin and significance. Valuable material has been collected, but the studies so far have been individual and independent. The much-needed travail d'ensemble has not yet appeared. One definite result has, however, been obtained. It is now generally admitted that the so-called sword dances, with the closely related Morris dances and mumming plays, are not mere survivals of marital exercises and inherited tradition from our warrior ancestors, but were solemn ceremonial dances. In some cases, there is a reason to believe, initiatory, performed at the stated seasons of the year, and directly and intimately connected with the ritual of which we have treated in the previous chapters, a ritual designed to preserve and promote the regular and ordered sequence of the processes of nature. And here again, our inquiry must begin with the very earliest records of our race, with the traditions of our Aryan forefathers. Well, you can say all humans descended from those 5 tribes, the Persians and the Hindus, 40,000 years ago. There's evidence to that effect, but it's being overstated here. The earliest recorded sword dancers are undoubtedly the Maruts. These swift-footed youths in gleaming armor, who are the faithful attendants of Indra. Professor von Schroeder, in Mysterium und Mimes, describes them thus. They are a group of youths of equal age and identical parentage. They are always depicted as attired in the same manner. They are richly and splendidly adorned with ornaments of gold on their breasts and bracelets on their arms. They wear deer skins on their shoulders. Above all, they are equipped for war. They carry shining spears in their hands, or golden axes. They are covered with golden armor, or cloaks, and helmets of gold gleam on their heads. They never appear without being fully armored. It seems as though their weapons are wholly and entirely part of their being. The writer goes on to remark that when such a band of armed youths, all of the same age, always closely associated with each other, are represented as dancers and always as dancers, then, undeniably, we have before our eyes the picture of a war dance, says Professor von Schroeder, is undoubtedly right. Consistently, throughout the Rig Veda, the Maruts are referred to as dancers, gold-bedecked dancers, with songs of praise. They danced round the spring. When ye Maruts speared arm dance, they streamed together like waves of water. And a special moment for the dance of these glorious youths, ever young brothers, of whom none is elder, none younger, is that of the ceremonial sacrifice. They dance on their heavenly paths. They leap and dance. Also, at the sacrificial feasts of men, we see how the dervishes, at least the whirling dervishes, represent the heavens in their dance as well. much later, obviously. The Maruts are said above were conceived of as the companions of Indra and helpers in his fight against the monstrous adversaries. Thus, they were included in the sacrifices offered in honor of that entity. Now, if we think of Indra not as a personified tribal deity, but as the god of heaven, or looking into the meaning of the name without limitation in terms of this world, we would say that the humans that did the fight were a means. They were on God's side, but it wasn't that God needed help. One of the most striking ritual dramas reconstructed by Professor von Schroeder is that which represents Indra as indignantly rejecting the claim of the Maruts to share in such a sacrifice. They had failed to support him in his conflict with the dragon, Vritra, when, by his might, he loosed the waters. Neither today nor tomorrow will he accept a sacrifice of which they share the honor. It requires all the tact of the offerer, Agastya, and of the leader of the Maruts to soothe the offended entity. Here, I would draw attention to the significant fact that the feat celebrated is that to which I have previously referred as the most famous of all deeds attributed to Indra, the freeing of the waters, and here the Maruts are associated with the god. See, we have the sin of shirk or misassociation being brought up very early. 40,000 BCE, perhaps, 40,000 years ago, perhaps, was the origin of some of the Rig Veda. Not all of it, but some of it. But they were also the objects of independent worship. They were specifically honored at the Chaturmasya, the feast which heralded the commencement of the 3 seasons of 4 months each, into which the Indian year was divided, a division corresponding respectively to the hot, the cool, and the wet season. The advantages to be derived from the worship of the Maruts may be deduced from the following extracts from the Rig Veda, which devotes more than 30 hymns to their praise. Well, if the number's so small, it'd be nice to actually have the number. The adorable Maruts, armed with bright lances, and cuirassed with golden breastplates, enjoy vigorous existence, made the cars of the quick-moving Maruts arrive for our good, bringers of rain and fertility, shedding water, augmenting food, givers of abundant food. Your milch kine are never dry. We invoke the food-laden chariots of the Maruts. Nothing can be clearer than this. The Maruts are daemons of fertility, the worship of whom will secure the necessary supply of fruits of the earth, or at least evoke a feeling that they will. The close associates of the Maruts with Indra, the great nature entity, has led some scholars to regard them as personifications of a special manifestation of nature. As wind entities, Professor von Schroeder points out that their father was Rudra, later known as Shiva, the entity of departed souls, and of fruitfulness, i.e., a Chthonian deity, and suggests the Maruts represent a band of spirits hunting in the wind and storm. He points out that the belief in a troop of departed souls is an integral part of Aryan tradition and classifies such belief under four main headings. And some will think of different qualities of divinity and give each out like to be a different god, but that's not always necessary to in some of these traditions. It turns out monotheism and polytheism, personification and non-personification, were part of pretty much every ancient culture. So we're not the only, modern people aren't the only people with multiple religions in the country. Under the form of a special hunt, the wild huntsman, well known in European folklore, he equates this with the Dionysus Zagreus. I don't remember the Greek, and the hunt of Artemis Hecate, that of a special army, the souls of warriors slain in fight. The northern Einherjar belong to this class, and the many traditions of special combats and ghostly battles heard but not seen. The conception of a host of women in a condition of ecstatic exaltation bordering on madness, who appear girdled with snakes, are hissing like snakes, tear living animals to pieces, and devour the flesh. The classic example here is the Greek Manads and the Indian Sanas, who accompany Rudra. The conception of a train of theriomorphic, phallic demons of fertility with their companion group of fair women, such are the satyrs and nymphs of Greek, the Gandharvas and Apsaras of Indian mythology. To these four main groups may be added the belief among the German people also, among the Letts, in a troop of child souls. So, angels and demons as as either adversaries or supporters of a particular entity, or certainly a side note. We're not, whether monotheism or polytheism, they're not saying that this is it. There's more out there. These four groups, in more or less modified forms, appear closely connected with the dominant spirit of vegetation by whatever name that spirit may be known. According to von Schroeder, there was among the Aryan peoples generally a tendency to regard the dead as assuming the character of daemons of fertility. This view of the learned professor considers to be at the root of the annual celebrations in honor of the departed, the Feast of Souls, which characterized the commencement of the winter season and is retained in the Catholic conception of November as the month of the dead. Now, Samhain started a week into November, so Vollendung des Arisch Mysterium, page 13. The introductory section of this book, containing a study of early Aryan belief and numerous references to modern survivals, is both interesting and valuable. The latter part, a panegyric on the Wagnerian drama, is of little importance. In any case, we may safely conclude that the Maruts, represented as armed youths, were worshipped as deities of fruitfulness, that their dances were of ceremonial character, and that they were by nature and origin closely connected with spirits of fertility. of a lower order, such as the Gandharvas. It also appears probable that if the drama of which traces have been preserved in the Rigveda were, as scholars are now of opinion, once actually represented, the mythological conception of the Maruts must have found its embodiment in youths, most probably of the priestly caste, who played their role and actually danced the ceremonial sword dance. As von Schroeder says, there is no doubt that this was performed by human, specifically by priestly persons. Now, not all these entities were asking for worship, and there's the tendency among Christian authors or those exposed to Christianity to associate way too many as considering them to be demons, even if they are the sort of being that could become a metaphysical demon. Well, I mean, it states the fire beings stay the fire beings, the invisible beings, sometimes represented with snakes in the Egyptian mythology, which I will get to later this year, obviously. But, well, when we turn from the early Aryan to the classic Greek period, we find in the Kuretes and, in a minor degree, the Corybantes, a parallel so extraordinarily complete, alike in action and significance, that an essential identity of origin appears to be beyond doubt. The Kurietes were, as their name indicates, a band of armed youths and semi-divine origin. The Kurietes are by origin semi-divine, or at least that's what they say, right? Demoniac beings, not just human priests, are the mythological representatives. Well, certainly the jinn, Plato pointed this out, the jinn kind of seem like gods to anybody who encounters them that isn't of a different mindset, because they're, they were before the humans. They're, they're a whole nother realm. Again, they're to be considered as elemental and primitive beings, and as such of divine origin. Preller regards them as mountain demons, while a passage from Hesiod quoted by Strabo equates them with nymphs and satyrs, i.e. fertility demons. When we remember the Gandharvas are the Indian equivalent of the satyrs, the close parallel between the Maruts and the Kurietes, both alike bands of armed youths of elementary origin and connected with beings of a lower grade, is striking. The home of the Kurietes was in Greek, where they were closely associated with the worship of the entity Rhea, thought to be a goddess. The traditional story held that, in order to preserve the infant Zeus from destruction by his father Kronos, they danced their famous sword dance round the babe, overpowering his cries by the clash of their weapons. Their dance was, by some writers, identified with the Pyrrhic dances, first performed by Athens in honor of her victory over the giants, and taught by her to the Kuretes. It had, however, as we shall see, a very distinct aim and purpose, and one in no way connected with warlike ends.